A ceasefire and hostage release proposal may actually be back on the table between Israel and the Hamas terror group. And all of this is coming as Hamas, at least reportedly, has dropped a vast majority of their previous demands. And of course, those demands killed any potential for a deal. But all of this is coming about as Israel advances its plans to take over Gaza City, which apparently has put Hamas under immense pressure, at least according to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But one has to ask, is this all just more smoke and mirrors from Hamas, or are they actually approaching the end of the rope? Well, joining me now to discuss this from Israel is Dr. A.J. Nolte. He's the Associate Professor and Director of the Institute of Israel Studies at Regent University. Dr. Nolte, welcome back to Washington Watch, and thank you for staying up late to join us.
No problem, Jody. It's great to be here with you.
Okay, so let's jump into this. It certainly can be hard to trust anything coming out of the mouth of Hamas, but what's the latest that you're hearing on a potential ceasefire and hostage proposal?
Well, I think the main thing to keep in mind is always what are Hamas's core interests, and there's obviously one of their imperatives is always to try to cause as much pain for Israel as possible and to bring the fight to Israel, but ultimately to do that they have to survive. And so what Netanyahu is basically threatening to do here is to go into a part of Gaza that they've never been into before, but it's also a part of Gaza that Hamas controls absolutely, which is Gaza City. And so Hamas is interested at a minimum in delaying that as much as possible. And I think they're making the calculation, and this would be kind of my guess is how this goes down. They may be making the calculation that if they let some of the hostages out, they can then get essentially extract a delay out of Israel, which will at least buy them some more time to survive. So what I don't expect is what most Israelis are hoping for, which is that this is going to be finally the deal that gets all the hostages out. I think realistically, I don't expect that. I don't think the Israelis expect that. I think they may be able to get some of them out. And then the question is, are there concessions that Hamas is still going to ask for beyond just delaying Israel's attack on Gaza City? But it may also be that Israel's attack on Gaza City is sufficient.
Yeah, so I mean that's the big question. What you're bringing up there, which way is this thing going to go? I know that Israel's Defense Minister Katz is saying that Hamas seems willing to discuss a deal for the release of the hostages, and of course, this is the first time in a long time that there's even been talk of a possible deal. But is it a stall tactic? What do you kind of gut feeling? What do you think what's going on here?
Look, I think it's absolutely a stall tactic. I think we know it. I think Israel knows it. I think to a certain extent, Hamas knows that Israel knows it. But the question is not, is it a stalling tactic? Because the answer is yes. The question is, how many hostages can Israel get back? And will they be able to then say the trade is worth it? And I think there's a reasonable possibility the answer to that is that, yes, they will be able to get at least some of the hostages back in exchange for some sort of delay. So yes, it's a stalling tactic. Yes, it's a survival tactic, but the Israelis might look at it and say, right now we have none of them coming back. If we play with a little bit, we may get some. And so that's, I think, part of the reason why they're doing this. The other reason is if in fact it turns out that Hamas is not acting in good faith, then the Israelis can still come back to their own people and to the world and say, the Israeli government can say, look, we really have tried everything. We've tried with these people over and over and over again, and now we really have no other choice. And so, I think if there's a serious offer on the table, the Israelis will consider it, even if they know Hamas is going to break the deal, because they can get something back in exchange. They can get some of the hostages back.
Well, it's very interesting to see what's going to come of this. Getting a little bit broader perspective, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. But of course, one of the members of the Knesset has been barred now from Australia from visiting that country. What do you think of that? What's going on with Australia here?
Well, there's been a concerted pressure campaign on Western countries to sort of start excluding people from Israel, to sort of put pressure on Israel. The pretext is usually has something to do with settlements in Judea and Samaria. But honestly, a lot of these pressure points just don't like Israel. And, the Australian government, unfortunately, Australia's been a good ally of the United States for a long time. It tends to be a stronger ally of us and a stronger ally of Israel, both when the coalition, which is the more conservative party, is in power. Now it's a Labour government, as I understand it. And they're like Keir Starmer, like Mark Carney in these Anglosphere countries, when their parties on the left are probably, honestly, in worse shape on Israel right now than Democrats in the United States. So I think that's a large portion of what's driving the Australia situation.
We've only got about 30 seconds and now I have to wrap up. But were you surprised at all by Australia and others wanting to recognize a Palestinian state?
No, I think this is virtue signaling. I think it's an attempt to put pressure on Israel. But I also think it's fallacious, because you can't recognize a state that doesn't exist. And the only thing it doesn't help the Palestinian people at all. The only thing it does is it takes away leverage from Israel as they are trying to negotiate with the Palestinians for their own security interests. So, I think it's for the Europeans, it's an empty gesture, but It could have costs for Israel.
Thank you, Dr. A.J. Nolte, Director of the Institute for Israel Studies at Regent University. Always an honor to have you.